Feminine Touches, Preview. Welcome home, masters, Katrin said with a smile as she showed customers to a table. Chad watched them being seated and given menus before he surveyed the rest of his cafe that was beginning to crowd up for lunch. Chad could not believe his good fortune that the idea he had stolen from a trip to Japan would end up being so profitable. The city neighborhood had a large hipster contingent, avid anime fans, and a decent-sized Asian community that also took to the concept of a maid cafe in their midst. Chad was prepared to weather months of losses, but instead found his cafe turning profitable by the end of his second month of its operation. It was only during the summer that he lost money, with the revenue from the rest of the year covering those losses each of the 4 years he had been open to date. Chad's eyes drifted to another of his waitresses as she knelt beside a table to stir in cream and sugar into a customer's cup. Chad often struggled not to laugh at the lucrative absurdity of it all. In truth, the place was nothing like a Japanese-made cafe. He knew that he was not going to find too many girls that would be willing to literally spoon-feed patrons, let alone perform massages. The image the girls cut in their uniforms and their feigned domestic docility made them enough of a novelty to the customer base that was increasingly drawing in tourists by word of mouth. The entire waitress staff had turned over since he first started, with the exception of Bonnie, who had become a waitress/manager of the facility. She was the only person Chad felt comfortable leaving in charge when he had to be away from the business. As Irina walked past Chad to put in an order, she turned to Chad and said, "That lovely Asian couple just asked if you're a lesbian." "What?" Chad asked, confused. "They want a picture with an American lesbian." "What?" Chad responded, dumbfounded by the girl's claims. "What did she say?" Bonnie asked with a laugh as she went to put in an order of her own. She thought that Chad looked like a lesbian she's seen in American television shows. "Her words, not mine," Irina answered. "You have to be kidding," Chad said with a glare. "Hey, don't shoot the messenger," Irina retorted. "I could see Chad being a lesbian. He's kind of got that KD Lang thing going if she had a ponytail," Bonnie joked. "I can't sing," Chad countered with a shake of his head, embarrassed by where the conversation was headed, even as he wished that Bonnie's words were the truth. While KD Lang was not his first choice of women to look like, he would take it over looking like a man and femme. "Oh, is this the first time someone thought you effeminate?" Bonnie teased, knowing that she could get away with it. "This is the first time I've ever heard someone call me a lesbian. Would you rather they think you were a straight girl?" Katrin inquired as she overheard Chad's claim. "I don't think I'm at risk of that," Chad replied as he hitched up his jeans. "I'm not sure. You definitely look more like a girl than most guys," Katrin noted. Chad blushed and shook his head as the girls laughed. Bonnie nodded in response to Katrin's statement as she said, "Since you lost the weight, you do, kind of, look girlish." "What's that supposed to mean?" "There aren't too many guys that are as thin as you," Katrin explained. "I'm not that thin," Chad replied as he looked down at his 130-pound body that looked lighter due to his thin-framed and 5 feet 8 inches size. "Please, I haven't seen the number on your scale since high school," Bonnie replied. Chad gave the curvy girl a look and did not doubt her. While she was hardly overweight, the 5 feet 7 inches girl had a thick body with ample curves that he knew gave her extra weight to carry around. As Irina walked to check in on her customers, Katrin pressed, "You know this could be a great test for my sociology project." "The words sociology and great don't mix," Chad countered. "No. This would be a fun project for all of us." "What are you talking about?" Chad asked the girl who was attending a local college. What if we feminize you and... Woo, what? Chad replied, cutting Katrin off from pressing any more buttons on his fantasy that he knew was best left to his imagination. No, it's for science. Chad replied, slowly to convey his disbelief and bemusement, which he was using to help draw attention away from his evident arousal. The idea is to see if you're seen as a man, woman, or transgender. Oh, that sounds like a lot of fun for me, Chad responded with sarcasm, even as he was sure the idea would be in his mind the next time his hand reached for his manhood. It'll just be for a little while, Katrin noted. Chad smiled as he heard the continued request. He was excited by the prospect, but he did not want to give away that fact. Chad crossed his arms, shook his head, and demurred, "That's just crazy." No. It would be completely scientific. I'm risking my business. There will be no risk. You can't know that. How about if we do a test before we bring you in here? A test? What kind of test? We do a dry run in a place with better lighting. If you can pass there, you'll pass here with no problem. You want me to walk around in public dressed like a girl? Chad asked, half incredulous and fully aroused by the idea. What's the problem? There's no risk, Katrin replied. For you, Chad countered. Katrin gave him a curious look as Bonnie struggled not to laugh at the conversation. Katrin continued, "We'll start slowly. I want to see the point where people stop treating you as a guy and start treating you as a girl." That's never going to happen, Chad argued, certain that his dreams of being passable as a woman were only fantasies. You underestimate yourself, Katrin countered. Well, what do I have to do when we start this? Nothing too noticeable. We'll get rid of your body hair, and any evidence of facial hair, obviously, trim up those brows, put a nice clear layer of polish on your nails, and a little unisexual clothing. That seems like a lot already. You'd look like a metrosexual, Bonnie interjected. That's the first step. We want to see if he's treated differently, Katrin explained. Chad was intrigued by the idea. A slow start could help him sell the girls that he was going along merely as part of Katrin's experiment to help her out. But they're going to treat him as a guy. That's what we think, but they might treat him a little differently. Because they'll think he's gay, not a woman, Bonnie countered. Chad nodded in agreement as he concurred, I don't think it'll prove much. But what about when we take it to the next step? We'll add a little concealer to your face, some low-block heels. Katrin began to explain. He'll just look gayer, Bonnie replied. But that's just another step. If they treat him as gay, they're treating him differently. I don't want my customers to think I'm gay, Chad retorted. Your customers don't even notice you, Katrin rejoined. You really can't look past us to see you, Bonnie said with a laugh as she moved about in her loud, multi-layered petticoat that always drew attention when a waitress approached a table. Katrin and Chad laughed at the action. He, like all of his employees, knew that the focus of the customers was always on the girls. The girls themselves viewed the customers and their uniform as a small step up from those at a Hooters or a Tilted Kilt, where many of them had worked before. The maids' uniforms came in only two colors, pink and black. Besides that, the uniforms were identically decorated with ruffles, lace, and bows. Beneath the uniform were the standard-issue rumba panties or lace-trimmed bloomers that were worn over a pair of white or black, opaque tights. The skirt of the uniform was mid-thigh length, but the fluffy, multi-layered petticoat made a customer getting a glance at their panties or bloomers a frequent occurrence. "I guess it wouldn't hurt to give it a try," Chad responded, pretending to relent. Katrin squealed as she inquired, "You'll do it?" "Because I like you," Chad replied with a laugh. "Hey, I want in on this," Bonnie added. "You want to make me pretty?" Chad joked. "Oh, I wouldn't miss out on that for the world," Bonnie noted. "Just give me the paperwork for what you need me to do," Chad told Katrin. "I'll get it to you tomorrow," Katrin squealed before she hugged Chad and headed back onto the floor. "I think I made her day," Chad turned to Bonnie to say with a laugh. "I know you made mine," Bonnie replied. Chad looked over the list of initial modifications that Katrin wanted him to make as he stood in the bathroom. There were no changes he considered major for the first day. He was just going to shave his body with the razor and paint his nails with a clear coat of nail polish.